to take my colleagues' time slots. Mr. Kumar did such a wonderful job of dissecting the current hottest topic in India for litigation. So we're going to switch real quick here. I'm not quite sure how to switch though. Excuse me, can you just, okay, Mr. Ghosh, thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk a little bit about IP at Microsoft. I think people, when I just did a very informal poll at the conference, people had interest in knowing how Microsoft manages IP. So this is going to be a brief overview about Microsoft and its intellectual property management. So Mr. Ghosh gave the more formalized introduction to me, but basically I have the coolest job ever. I get to travel around the world. I get to see fabulous products. I get to see manufacturing facilities of very interesting companies, and I get to meet all kinds of lawyers, and I get to negotiate with them. So that's really what my job is, and I've been at Microsoft for 14 years, so I drink the Kool-Aid. And now it's a matter of pride to have an Indian-born CEO who's leading the world's largest software company. Okay, so I'm going to quote you a couple of quotes from a book that was written by the first vice president of the actual IP management group at Microsoft. It was founded in 2004 at Microsoft formally by Marshall Phelps, who came from IBM and had done this at IBM. And when he left Microsoft, he wrote a book on IP at Microsoft, and it's called Burning the Ships. And this is a quote from that book by Horacio Guterres, who was until recently our Deputy General Counsel and Vice President. And basically, this is what you've heard over the past 2 days, that IP strategy is really part of the corporate strategy. And that's very, very true for Microsoft. So importance of IP to Microsoft has been right from the very beginning. Does anybody know what this letter is? This is a letter, anybody? Give a second, no, okay. So this is the letter written by a 22-year-old Harvard graduate who quit school to build a company. And this is a letter written by Bill Gates to the homebrew computing club in the Silicon Valley, talking about the importance of IP and importance of software and how software will drive innovation in the future. And although hardware was really the focus in 1970s, he really had the vision of how software could partner with hardware to drive even more innovation on top of hardware. And so this is his letter pleading to the Silicon Valley community to appreciate the IP in software. And that really is still the Microsoft philosophy. If you look, we spend about $10 to $11 billion every year. Every 12 months, we spend $10 to $11 billion in R&D research. And we spend $120 million approximately in patent prosecution costs. So at this moment, we have about more than 75,000 patents worldwide. And since 2004, we have 1,100 plus patent licenses. We are a team of about 12 people who have closed 1,100 plus patent deals in this short period. And yes, I am a diamond on almost on every airline because I'm never in Redmond. In comparison, we have less than 10 legal suits that we have initiated. So if you look at the ratio, it's really a very uneven ratio, 1,100 plus licenses with less than 10 offensive suits. Mr. Steinbrenner over here is very intimately aware of one of our suits, or more perhaps. So quick overview on Microsoft. We have 6 large business groups, and the corporate legal team, the corporate IP legal team actually owns all the patents and manages outbound licensing and inbound for some of them for all the business groups. So the 75,000 patents relate to all the business groups, and we manage the outbound licensing of them. So this is just a quick overview. Almost all of you may be familiar of how the S&P 500 market value has changed in terms of tangible to intangible. For Microsoft, it has always been a very high ratio in the intangible, which is mostly IP valuation. And you see that today in all the other companies, from Facebook to Zynga to others. So how does innovation happen at Microsoft? We have 6 R&D centers that are 100% focused on innovation. But our product groups and our 30, 40,000 people around the world are innovating all the time as well. So the way we are set up at Microsoft is that each product group has a patent council. The patent counseling team has got technical people from the product group. Usually these are high-level architects, engineers who have a broad grasp of all technology that relates to their business group. And then you have the product attorney who owns the legal aspects, all legal aspects of that business division. And then you have a patent attorney who is the specialist for that particular product group. But the patent attorney can pull in, our patent teams are organized by technology. So if you had a wireless technology that was in consideration, the patent attorney's job is to pull in the subject matter expert to that particular meeting. So every meeting is focused on specific set of technologies, and we have specific set of stakeholders who come to this meeting. If that patent council passes a request for a particular patent to be filed, then it goes to the vice president level for approval. So that's how we build our patent portfolio. It's extremely thoughtful, it's extremely customized to a particular business line, and it has to follow a strategy roadmap of how that technology fits with that product business group's roadmap. And this is particularly important because Microsoft is so diverse. We make consumer products from Xbox and phones to large-scale servers and cloud services. So it's very important that we have a customization, not a one-size-fits-all strategy. So this is just a quick slide to show you that we have consistently stayed with our philosophy of R&D. And our R&D is not just in software. Often people think that we are only patenting in software. We actually have a lot of patents in hardware. We have licensing programs in hardware, and we have very high double-digit number licensees who take hardware technology licenses from Microsoft. And this is a quick review of the US patent trends from the filing to the issued. So as you can see, we stay consistent. For us, quality is very important. And third-party evaluations like the IEEE reports have shown that even though, let me go to the slide of where we are. So this is a quick overview of our number of patents in US and globally. But here, this shows you where we stand in the US, top 10 US ranking. And as you can see, we've been consistent. But we are not number 1. IBM is typically 1, and Samsung is typically 2. Our new entrants over here into 2013, as you can see, Google is number 10. And we don't have the 2014 results. I'm sure they're climbing. But our focus has also been on quality, and India plays a very big role. We have a large outsourced model for India where our patents are drafted here and reviewed here. And so we rely on really high quality technical skills to make sure that the quality of our patents are high. And that's where I was saying the IEEE report shows us consistently to be the number 1 in terms of, at least in terms of software patents, in terms of quality. So IEEE is just 1, but Ocean Tomo also has the same result, and there are other agencies that also show that all the work all the money we spend and all the time we spend on these drafting is leading to quality patents. So why IP is important, and why do you want to protect your IP, and why do you want to patent it, right? So Microsoft's philosophy has always been that if you don't patent not every technology gets patented, of course. But the patented technology is usually the technology that leads to differentiation. So if you don't do that, you basically make it generalized, right? You have generalized engine for software. And that's a commoditized platform. And then you don't find any different experience if everybody is using the same technology. So for us, it's very important to patent what is our differentiating technology. And one good example of that is Kinect. Is anybody here have a Kinect or has seen a Kinect? Does anybody know? One? Few more hands. Okay, good. So Kinect, for the others who don't have it, Kinect is a marvelous device. At least I find it a marvelous device, because when I walk into my hall and when I want to turn on the TV, I don't have to finally look for the remote, because I have one son who doesn't know how to follow instructions and never leaves the remote where he's supposed to. So when I walk into my hall, I just say Xbox on, Xbox CNN, Xbox play Netflix, and I never have to ever look. And when I have guests and who have not seen and Kinect are really spooked when I start talking to a machine, and the machine actually responds by turning on and playing CNN. And so this is the product that Microsoft came up with, and the Guinness World Record made Guinness World Record by selling. It's the fastest selling consumer device in a 60-month period, selling 10 million units right away. And you can't believe how many people call me to ask me if I had a secret in on getting the device, because there was such a shortage, and yet we managed to sell 10 million units. And this is an extremely great example of how Microsoft operates. So 4 R&D centers were building parts of the technology that came together with the product group's effort into building Kinect. And these 4 R&D centers are global and different time zones. The engineers have been working on completely different technology, and this was all put together by the product group technology group and resulted in 600 plus patent applications. So this is what we mean when we say that we want IP that differentiates. Another example for the mobile first, cloud first product would be our Surface. So everybody who's used an Android tablet or an iOS tablet, I myself have one, but I have also used our Surface Pro 3. My biggest grouse, I've been an iPad user for almost 2-3 more maybe years now, and my biggest grouse is that it's just great for reading a book or watching a movie or being on Facebook or basically consuming entertainment. But when I have to write a serious email, I have to go back to my laptop. So I've been carrying around a laptop and an iPad all the time. But Surface Pro 3 is the first device that I can do both, and I can do it as well as I do it on an iPad. Of course, it took us 3rd generation to really get there, but we got there. And that to us is differentiated technology. So let's switch now to the licensing part of the world. So just as the patent councils for the product groups were multiple stakeholders, at Microsoft, even the licensing team is with multiple stakeholders. And we basically license all kinds of technology, from tools to file systems to protocols. And it works together with our team, with the research team and the product group team. And I'll show you how complex the stakeholder mapping is. So you can see right here that we have different attorneys with different subject matter expertise that are part of our development of a business group. So there's a lot of complexity in building an IP program at Microsoft, because we are a heavily regulated company, and we have sort of a responsibility to make sure that our IP is licensed in an equitable manner across the board. So the licensing program shouldn't be just geared for one sector of companies, either multinationals or large partners of Microsoft. So we have to be able to define a program where a 2-person in a garage in Poland, which is a true company, can also afford to license our technology just as BMW can. So that's where our biggest effort goes, to make sure what we have on our licensing programs, from the type of patents we have to the type of licensing terms we put together, can be on reasonable and non-discriminatory, even though they are not part of SEPs, just because we have that responsibility. So this is one of our most famous quotes by Bill Gates, where it says, a lot of companies, it's only the legal department that deals with IP. but not at Microsoft, because IP is central to who we are and what we do. And this is very true. The very first month I was at Microsoft 14 years back, I was sent to an IP 101 class, although I was just a business development person negotiating contracts. And so even though it was not really central to my function at that point, I was sent to learn about IP. And that is really, you can find that in the environment at Microsoft. No matter who you are, they are very well educated on intellectual property. So in summary, each company needs to determine its own strategy, and IP is really a tool for your strategy, how you implement it. And for Microsoft, it's been a very, very important tool, a tool one we couldn't do without. With that, I would like to conclude. I hope it was useful, and if you have any questions, as Mr. Ghosh said, I'll take them at the end. Thank you for your time.